There appears to be some construction or something going on outside. I don't know, there's something really loud. Hopefully it doesn't come out on the microphone. Right, hello, my name is Jack Wolf, also known as JackW, apart from no one calls me that because it's Jack Wolf. Hi, I'm going to review a film, and I'm not going to script it this time, because that way I can make this video faster and hopefully not keep you waiting too long. But I will make more scripted videos. I mean, I have a couple projects kind of on the sidelines that I will work on and things to work on. Anyway, let's talk about Spider-Man Homecoming. So, as you probably know from my previous video about film sequels and stuff, I haven't been entirely on board with Marvel recently. I just haven't kind of like really cared that much since the Avengers in 2012. I was just kind of like, oh, whatever, because it always seemed to be like people getting overhyped about some obscure reference or character being shoved in that I honestly didn't know and couldn't really care about, and people get so invested into it. So Spider-Man Homecoming I was actually really pleased with. Now, it was funny because it was one of the only Spider-Man films that piqued my interest, or one of the only Marvel films I should say that piqued my interest. And back in the day when I was, a young kid, I was a fan of the Sam Raimi original Spider-Man films. I mean, especially the first two. I remember being absolutely terrified of Dr. Octopus as a kid, even though you go back and you watch it, it's like, nah, this is a big fun cheeseball. Those films are, the first two films, especially the second one, are great. So, of course, The Amazing Spider-Man came out, and I gave it a miss. I never actually watched it, and it seems rightly so, because it was rated badly. Especially the second one. I don't know what the general critic rating is, but a lot of people I've heard who have watched it are just like, no, just stay away from them. Nowhere near as good as Sam Raimi ones. So then that brings us to Spider-Man Homecoming. So with this film, obviously they, got rid of the whole, origin story, because we don't need to know that anymore. We've seen it. We know how Spider-Man becomes Spider-Man. He goes in a teleporter with the spider, and it gets mixed with the Spider-Man DNA. At least that's how I think it works, probably. Anyway, we've got Tom Holland, who my cousin told me is English, and I don't know if he is, so I'm going to research if he is English now. Because if he is, then he does a good American accent.
Tom Holland.
He is, oh my god, he is! And that was probably the campiest I've ever sounded. Yeah, wow, I didn't realise that. Anyway, no, I thought he was really good in the film. How old is he? Because he looked very young, and quite appropriately so. He is 21. Oh wow, so not too young, but young enough. He could pull off, the idea of being sort of 15, he had the voice and the look for it. And he was probably, when you look at Toby, he looks, ancient in the role. So he pulls it off very well. And I thought his portrayal of Spider-Man, it got the balance right. A lot of people have said, Tobey Maguire was a really good Peter Parker, but his Spider-Man was a little too kind of soft. And then they said on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Andrew Garfield, whose Peter Parker was, seemingly unrealistic, whereas his Spider-Man was far more competent. And I think they got a real good mix here, Peter Parker in this is, kind of nerdy, a little bit timid and uncertain of himself, and isn't the most popular guy and is a bit of a victim and does look, dress and look a bit sort of, flimsy and whatever, even though that's a very weird term. But his Spider-Man, he's jokey, cracking jokes. He was actually, quite funny. One of my favourite lines is right at the start of the movie, where he turns around and goes, whoa, that dude's big now, alright, I gotta be right back, when he's referring to Ant-Man growing in size.
The hell, he's big now, I gotta go.
I just think he did a really good job. And he's very ripped. I don't know, it was almost like an action figure. It looked weird. It was like this, small frail little kid, and yet he looks like he's made out of plastic. So that was interesting. I'm not jealous of Tom Holland. I'm not jealous of Tom. I might be a little bit jealous of Tom Holland. I thought the story was entertaining. I never felt like, I was overly distracted or bored, or that it was plodding. I never felt I was completely invested all the way through. I thought it did suspense well, it did comedy well, comedic relief. It knew when to take itself seriously, and it was just engaging. I had a really good time watching it. I don't think there's anything I can really comment on that was that bad. The only things I can say, I I do slightly miss the origin story thing. It's not needed in this film, and the film would have suffered if they had it. But I think it's just the sort of nerdy, like, fantasy inside me. You know, you have the nerdy guy, he goes through the, you know, gets bitten, and he looks in the mirror and he's like, oh, what's going on here? And then, you know, he goes to school and he does the thing where he, like, catches juice or whatever. That's like, or punches someone. That's always entertaining as hell to me. And they don't have it in this film, and it's completely fair. You know why they didn't put it in this film. The CG at times was a tiny bit ropey. Like, I could spot when kind of something looked a bit off, or when, like, my immersion was slightly like, okay, you know, that guy was clearly sort of being thrown around on a green screen, or, you know, the CG went a bit kind of stretchy. And, you know, I think there's one particular one, there's like a close-up of the Falcon guy. I don't know what he's called. There's Michael Keaton. There's a close-up of Michael Keaton in his suit, and the fur on his jacket is kind of blowing, but it doesn't look like real fur. It looks like, you know, like CG fur, like some Monsters Inc. kind of thing. So it's, you know, that's one example where the CG was let down a little bit. But honestly, for the most part, it was okay. Like, I didn't feel at any point where I was like, oh, I can't believe this at all. I was fully engaged and had a lot of fun. The villain, I liked the villain, you know. I liked the twist with the villain, which I can't give away, obviously. But I thought, you know, it wasn't just completely... It wasn't like a massive, I am the Overlord, I must take over the world, and you have a big battle that just becomes monotonous, because it's like, you can only see so much destruction before it's like... Okay, I get it, it's just another building. It was, you know, it was a much smaller, like, appropriately for Spider-Man, it was a much smaller kind of local villain that made a lot of sense and looked so cool. Like, it's ironic, of course, with Michael Keaton, you know, being in that film Birdman about, you know, playing, getting typecast and stuff as a character. Now he's playing a Birdman. But it looked, I just love the outfit. I love it. It's kind of like a sort of, a bit of like a retro pilot look, but had the green eyes, and it was so cool. I really liked it. And you know, overall, I thought it was a fair enough villain that kind of, you know, it wasn't like a big soppy like, oh, I'm only doing this. It wasn't like a sort of like you understood the villain, but at the same time you're like, yeah, you know, he's doing bad enough stuff to kind of, you know, it serves him right and whatever. And he was, you know, at heart a good enough person. But whilst also being, you know, like a crook and so forth. God, what else is there to comment on? Having Roger Moore? Why the hell do I want to say Roger Moore? Who plays Tony Stark? Ronaldo DiPardo. Roman Ronald. Is it an R? It's like got a weird name, hasn't it? It's like a Rogo Delgado. I can't remember his name. But I don't want to look it up because I want to remember it off the top of my head. It's not even gonna... Tony Harrison. No, that's the character's name. Paul Whitehouse. What? Okay, I'm just gonna have to Google him. I'm just gonna have to Google Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. There we go. I knew he had a weird name. So, Robert Downey Jr. in it, you know, I don't think... He wasn't too obnoxious. Now, I think Robert is, you know, he can be really great at times, but I think they can play up his kind of swagger a tiny bit too much at times. And no, he sort of... He brought a great character like Iron Man to life and made him a character that everyone actually likes, you know, from being rather obscure. But at the same time, I think they kind of play him up a little too much for like comedic sake. But I thought, you know, overall he was handled well in this film, and his sort of role as a slight fatherly figure, you know, was appropriate. I liked him. I wasn't like, when he turned up. And they didn't saturate the film with loads of cameos from all the other Avengers, which would have really like bogged it down. You know, you see there's like a tiny bit of Captain America, but he's not even, he's just on like a TV screen. It's not actually, I don't know, is that a spoiler? No, it can't be a spoiler. The friend character, his friend, I thought was good. The script was funny. Have I talked about that already? It was just, I don't think there's really anything I can critique about the film. It was funny. It was well paced. It made sense. I was following it the entire way through. The colours looked good. You know, I often kind of am like, you know, Marvel films seem to all blend together and look a bit bland, but I thought the colours in this one were actually quite appropriate. You know, they looked nice. It wasn't garish, but it was like attractive. God, what else? The love interest was, yeah. This is what happens when I don't script myself. I'm all over the place and I can't focus because I'm just trying to pick out parts of the film. Really, I mean, you know, on repeat viewings, on repeat viewings, I may find things that I kind of want to criticize or, you know, may not like as much. But on the initial viewing, I really can't think of any dramatic, like, major complaints that I have with the film at all. The only one I had about the actual how the web shooters worked is actually explained in the comics, that he doesn't get the ability to shoot his own web. He doesn't get... But let me try that again. He doesn't get the ability to create web inside him. You know what I mean. He doesn't get that ability until actually later in the comics, and initially he creates his own web shooters, which, you know, because I grew up with the Sam Raimi films, I didn't realise that, and now it makes sense why he has the shooters now for his web. I think this is the first time in a while that I've kind of come away from a film I've seen and I'm struggling to find things to really criticise about it, because I just did enjoy it. And look, okay, you know, maybe I expect people who are huge Spider-Man fans will have things to criticise about it, and that's completely fair enough. They are far more familiar with the source material, and I expect people who, you know, are huge Marvel fans and people who are really big cinema buffs who kind of know about sort of really specific things will find things to criticise about it. Whereas with me, you know, I know a little about cinema but not too much, and I know a little about Spider-Man but not too much, so it just kind of fit into a really happy kind of like, yes, I enjoyed that experience, and it was a good experience. And so, if there's anything you want to touch, you know, me to touch upon, that was an awkward phrase, please leave a comment, and then I will reply to you there, because, you know, I feel like I'm probably still missing things that I haven't talked about here. Overall, though, I'd rate Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't want to give it a number. I'd rate it well. It was a good experience, very enjoyable. I'd say watch it. You know, if you're a Spider-Man fan, watch it. If you even like the Sam Raimi films, watch it. If you're just looking for a fun movie, you know, you don't have to be hugely invested in superhero movies, but if you're just looking for a fun movie, give it a try. If you don't want to spend too much, then maybe wait until after it comes out on other formats, because it's quite expensive to go to the cinema for a ticket these days. That's my review, though. What projects will come next? Let me just say, someone told me to watch Battlefield Earth, so I'll probably give that a try. I have I have an unfinished script for the film Career Opportunities that I will do at some point, but because of a certain star in that film, I'll probably leave it for a while, because I imagine everyone's getting sick of that, as I am definitely getting sick of that. Joke, I could never get sick of that. I have the recorded audio, actually, from my video I made, talking about whether or not a woman should be cast as a doctor before they announced it, where I go off at Moffat. So if anyone would like to hear me call Moffat like a twat, then please, let me know in the comments. Overall, though, yeah, have a good time. I'm gonna go. Goodbye. See ya. Have a good life. Love you. I don't stop it.